Testimony is now underway in the quadruple murder trial of Jason Jones. Jones is charged with killing 4 people in Laurel, Nebraska in August of 2022. 3 days of jury selection wrapped up Wednesday, and both sides delivered their opening statements this morning. The trial, by the way, was moved from Cedar County to Dakota County in a change of venue. Now, the trial officially got underway at 10 o'clock this morning. The 12-member jury and 5 alternates were escorted into the courtroom after 3 days of jury selection. Following judges' instructions, prosecuting attorney Corey O'Brien began with his opening statement. Over the course of an hour, he laid out the basis for his case: the murder of Michelle Ebeling, the fire that occurred inside her home, the murders of Jean, Janet, and Dana Twyford, and the fire at their home. He also offered a preview of the evidence the state will present. Jones's defense team, by comparison, had an opening statement lasting only 7 minutes. Attorney Matthew McDonald didn't contest that Jones killed the Twyfords in the early morning hours of August 4th, 2022. Instead, he claims that Jason Jones had a mental breakdown.
He did kill the Twyfords. There's no dispute. That's never been disputed. All we're asking is all the evidence. They're going to put a lot of evidence on that you don't need to hear. We told you he killed the Twyfords. The issue is his mental state. Is somebody who has a mental breakdown guilty of premeditated murder?
McDonald previewed a note that Jones allegedly left his wife, Carrie Jones, the day before the crimes were committed. Now, the defense doesn't deny that Jones should be convicted of the serious crimes, instead looking to the jury to convict him of lesser charges. Jones faces 4 counts of first-degree murder, which, if found guilty on each one, carries a life sentence in prison or the death penalty. We'll have more from opening statements and the first witness testimony tonight on News 4 at 6. Now, ahead of the opening statements in the Jones trial, a judge heard motions on evidence and the media's rights to view and report that evidence. In August, the court decided the media would not be able to photograph, record, or access any evidence presented in the case through the duration of Jason Jones's trial and the trial of his wife, Carrie Jones, as well. One reason? To preserve the right to a fair trial for Carrie Jones, who also faces charges connected to the crime, and she awaits trial. Attorneys for the Cedar County News newspaper filed a motion to intervene. They argue by barring the media from publishing images of the evidence simply because of the case against Carrie Jones, it would weaken the First Amendment. Prosecutor Corey O'Brien maintained he's trying to be transparent with the media as much as possible while still adhering to Carrie Jones's right to a fair trial. The judge granted the motion to intervene with a discussion of evidence and media access to continue.